Alright guys, welcome back. It's your boy the Commish here. Before we get into matchups, two extra segments. We're going to do a quick recap. And then I'm going to go and dive into, which I didn't even know, but the first three-way deal that happened into the league. So without further ado, let's get into the recaps. So, this one game right here, I think, was a must-win for both teams to keep their hopes alive and continue for the rest of the season. And a very, very close victory. Came down to the wire on the last drive for the Giants, but Coffey pulls it out 110 to 107. This drops Allen to 0-5. He could flat out win every week if he wanted to, but you also have buys coming up, so it's going to be very, very tough. It does not look good for that team, despite a lot of pieces now trending up on that roster. But Rob Coffey improves to 2-3 and looks to get a win next week. The next game over here, right now, one of the hottest teams in fantasy football for this league only, finding his third straight victory, is Lewis Todd. 139 points to Paul's 99. The unknown mysteries all hit for Lewis as Sammy Coates dropped 29, Hogan dropped 13, Hyde did his thing, Rodgers was alright. Not a bad performance here. And a matchup for probably second place, but it still didn't even have that great of an effect on the game. I think everybody kind of stayed in their standings. Johnny gets the victory, 129 to 110. Difference maker here obviously was Brian with the bye week blues and Paxton Lynch just looking like a rookie quarterback. Johnny is able to pull out the victory despite Russell Wilson having a bye. So congratulations there. This next game over here was the highest scoring game of the week, as a lot of these games were pretty low scoring, but this one very, very high scoring. My team pulling out the victory against Harsh's team, 170 to 146. Ahead of the division still, 3-2. Harsh drops to 2-3, but did find possibly a diamond in the rough in this game, so we'll have to see what the manager does over there. But you have one team that is a game back of the division. It's not over by any means. And then the other team has the most points scored, but also the most points against. And the most points against is higher than anybody else's point total, which is really, really weird because I don't think that's ever happened, but just something to look at. The matchup of the week, we had Matthew Morris against Max Mandel. After the champ was riding a winning streak, he has now lost 2 straight in a row. Max with a 97-point victory. You got away with murder on that one because that will never happen. I don't think anybody's... Maybe it's happened obviously in the past, but a 97-point victory, you're lucky you had the one person who had 72 points. And now that was even bigger because that was a divisional game, which you are now undefeated in the division, which is going to come in handy. So congratulations. And the upset of the week, very surprising here, as I did not call this game correct either. Andre is no longer undefeated as he dropped to 4-1, as David, surprisingly, 3-2. The biggest difference here was Larry Fitzgerald dropping 2 touchdowns with Drew Stanton. That to me was the difference maker there. On Andre's side of the ball, no Drew Brees, and Jameis Winston was awful. He was flat out garbage. Greg Olsen tried to put the team on his back, but he got no help from Jameis Winston in this one. So David, congratulations on going 3-2. And also another difference maker here was Hopkins actually caught a touchdown against the Vikings, even though it's garbage time. But fellas, garbage time is anything for fantasy football. So there's your recaps right there. And right now the division leaders stand as Andre, Max, and myself. and everything else looks like it is still a puzzle and a mystery to solve. So let's see what happens there when I. All right, so before I break down the matchups for this week, I just want to let everybody know there's a lot of interesting averages and statistics for each team. Now, what you can do is this. I think you can only look though on a laptop or an iPad. I'm pretty sure you can't do it in the fantasy app. So what you're gonna want to do is go to League, and then you scroll down. It's the fourth one down that says Record Book, and that'll break down the team statistics for the season. Now, the only bad thing about the Record Book when I'm clicking on it, the thing that's very unfortunate is that they only give you the best and worst. They don't tell you every team's statistics, but just to get a look at how teams are doing, if you want to take a look at that and then take a look at the average of the worst and the best, for example, they have margin of victories, they have average touchdowns a week, most touchdowns a week, stuff that's pretty interesting just to look at and to keep you guys occupied. So on your own time, you can take a look at that. Okay. So for the first matchup of the week, I'm gonna have to breeze through it a little bit. I actually had this done, and then I realized that the whole mic was on mute, so I have to redo this one. Um, so we have David coming off of the upset of the week, going up to 3-2, and then another guy who's trying to look for his first win of the season, and that's Paul. Let me break down Paul's roster very, very quickly first before I get into David. So the thing with Paul's, you're just looking for a win at this point, man. I actually thought his team was very, very solid for the first few weeks of the season, and then a lot of trades not going his way. It's just a bad situation, but bottom line, I'm just gonna go keys to victory because bottom line is Eli Manning. There's a reason why they dropped his projections to 17. Like that's streamer. Like Eli Manning's falling into a streamer category, and he hasn't even done much all year. So that just sucks. But I know when Paul has the bad times going, he lives and dies by Eli. But against the Ravens, that shouldn't be a bad matchup. Amari Cooper and Alshon Jeffrey. In all honesty, if you want a chance to win this week, they need you to hit a combined 40 points from both of them. Um, Jeffrey, I don't have any optimism for at all, though, man. He might be dinged up, and to be quite honest with you, I think he's out there as a decoy. That's all I can really say about that. It's either that or they're just retarded, and I think it's more of the case that Alshon Jeffrey is hurt. Cooper finally got on the board. That's why a lot of people liked him because he's just that explosive deep threat guy. I think Cooper is like an AJ Green type of fantasy wide receiver where they have these huge 20-point outburst games, but then they drop like 7 points. Like to me, that's what Amari Cooper is. Um, the other guy for your team that could have a serviceable day is LeGarrette Blunt. With the Bengals are just a bad team, and with LeGarrette Blunt pounding the rock, that should be pretty good in this one. I would say definitely a touchdown for him, but you're going to need a lot more than just a touchdown. Willie Snead, this is a guy I think I'm the most optimistic about on your side of the ball. When New Orleans is at home and Willie Snead is healthy after the bye, perfect. I think him in the dome with Drew Brees, they make beautiful music together. You know what? And Carolina's not even that good. Like I think the Saints, all of them get an upgrade obviously at home. And the two guys that I think are gonna like ball out are definitely gonna be Snead and Cooks in this one. So keep that going there. And Victor Cruz, you're just doing whatever you have to work with. I'm assuming Richard is only in if Murray is out. Um, and that's that. So that's your side of the ball. So now we look at the Davids. And speaking of quarterbacks whose projections have dropped, Andrew Luck dropped 21 points. And the reason being is because he gets sacked a lot. Um, he still has potential to put up those mid 20 games. I mean, Andrew Luck, like he just shows up in the fourth quarter when they need to dial up a lot of pass plays. He's gonna be on the ground a lot in this game, but this is a guy I thought was gonna be the number one quarterback. So 21 points. I say, you know what, that's right. That's right where he's ranked. But until they get their crap figured out on the line, like Luck won't have top five potential. I think you drop him down into that top 10 range because of the volume of him throwing is there, but it's just not that successful from a team standpoint. Deshaun Jackson against Philly. Oh, this is gonna burn Paul really bad. Deshaun Jackson always comes through against the Philadelphia Eagles, no matter what. It's the Eagles games and the Giants games he always shows up for, but the Eagles games, I'm put up a 20 spot at least because that's what he does. DeAndre Hopkins against Indianapolis is very interesting, and the reason why I say that is because to me, I feel like Brock and him are not on the same page, and it's not Hopkins' fault. It's clearly all Brock Osweiler. But if Hopkins was to score in this game, you definitely got a very, very good deal from getting a top 10 wide receiver. But I don't know if Vontae Davis is going to specifically shadow one guy, and I don't think you really need to with Brock Osweiler. I think if he was on Hopkins and you forced it to Will Fuller, like that could go good or bad for the Indianapolis Colts. But I feel like with Hopkins is like because Vontae Davis hasn't been shadowing Allen Robinson, and he didn't shadow Alshon Jeffrey since he's been back in the lineup. I feel like I'm missing some. No, I think those are the only two games he came back. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Next up, we have LaShawn McCoy against the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, that 18 points. Yeah, he'll probably drop a 20 spot. Sproles against Washington. Sproles is like I think I think we can say now. I had him on my team. I traded him obviously. I feel like Sproles and Theo Riddick are like boomer bust, depending on what your value is. RB2s, RB3s, because I feel like if they don't do anything, it's within that 8 to 10 range. But if they do something for some reason, if you look at the game, Sproles does amazing. It's a 20-point game, and Riddick's got two 20-point games. So I feel like Sproles is definitely in that same line, and because he has a certain role, he's a plug and play RB2, meaning like if you have everything else stacked, he's fine. Zach Ertz. I would assume he would get on track against the Washington Redskins, but clearly I give you the advantage in the tight end department. Larry Fitzgerald against the Jets. Well, news is Palmer is back, so yippee. But I can honestly see this being a big John Brown game, but I think Fitzgerald would still find the end zone. I don't know if the yardage will be there though. Jonathan Stewart. There's New Orleans. Not a scary matchup at all. He's very touchdown dependent. If he doesn't get that touchdown, you're looking at 8 points. If he does, 16 points. That's my prediction every week for Jonathan Stewart, pretty much. And to my surprise, going with Green Bay because they can stuff the run very well against the Dallas Cowboys. And just to stick it to Johnny on your hate to Zeke because you got rid of him. But bottom line, I think there's a lot of great matchups and firepower for David for Paul to overcome in this one. So I would say that David will go to 4-2. All right. So our next matchup to break down, same story as far as records are concerned. A 3-2 team taking on an 0-5 team. Stock trending up for one team, and this other team is just trying to get that first win of the season. I'm talking about Johnny versus Allen. Now, unlike the previous matchup that I broke down, I actually think that this might be a lot closer than what people think it might be. And why? It basically comes down to the full quote unquote arsenal of weapons that Allen has in a full lineup. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I'm very, very, very intrigued as to why Marcus Mariota is now starting after all season you stuck by Kirk, and now you're 0-5, which tells me that Allen still believes in one thing, and that is playoffs. Playoffs? But, hey, whatever. I mean, it's a better matchup, though, so that's a good one. 20 points for Marcus Mariota on the projection. The only issue I have with Marcus Mariota, he's so touchdown dependent. He doesn't throw for any yards, and I know that's every quarterback is touchdown dependent, but I'm saying, like, last week, Mariota put up the most fantasy points for a quarterback, I think. It was either him or Roethlisberger. And he didn't throw for that many yards. And I know they're going to make him run as well, but like you need those 3 touchdowns at least. And against Cleveland, that was a game where DeMarco Murray didn't score. So I say 2 touchdowns for Mariota in this one. Now, if they get up to a serviceable lead, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to showcase Derrick Henry in this one. But Needless to say, Russell Wilson is at home against the Atlanta Falcons, and if Russell Wilson is healthy, and I don't buy into the Falcons defense, so I got to go with Russ in that one. This is why I think this matchup becomes an issue here is the wide receivers. I actually do like Michael Thomas at home. I think any Saint is startable as long as they are at home. Tyrell Williams is a very big coin flip. Now, if I was a gambling man and I had to speculate on how Denver's going to cover San Diego's underdeveloped wide receivers, I would definitely have Chris Harris on Benjamin because if you take Benjamin out of the equation, you're relying on Tyrell Williams to beat you. You don't want Benjamin to beat you over the top against Talib because that's just a bad matchup because Talib struggles with the small guys. So I would think the guy who's primed to actually have a big day and get a lot of targets would be Tyrell Williams. But it's hard for me to speak very optimistic about a guy when they're against the Denver Broncos. That's just the way I go with that. So I don't know, but I think you don't even have any other better options, so that's why he's there. Um, so this is where now the Kelvin Benjamin Mike Evans combo is not here this week. It's about Randall Cobb and Kelvin Benjamin. So New Orleans Kelvin Benjamin is money. That's a big game. It's at least, in my opinion, I think at least 17 points. I think that projection should be a lot higher. Randall Cobb, though, I am not optimistic about. I know he had a good week, but if you're listening to this, to me, you should sell Randall Cobb. I said it from day one. The one time he has a big game, you just have to sell him because there's no way I'm buying that success anymore. Um, as far as the way these teams are set up, it's a little bit differently. Lamar Miller for Johnny really, really like. There's no more excuses at this point. Like I'm already established him as an RB2, and that to me, even though he's getting the volume, he's not doing anything with it. Indianapolis, okay, like this is the greatest matchup you could have. So, in my opinion, I think he needs to get it done here. Ezekiel Elliott against Green Bay. Now, on paper, this would say that this is a terrible matchup, but I think Dallas's line is so good that Elliott might have a box score that looks like 20 carries, 80 yards, but he'll find a touchdown in this one, so there's nothing to worry about with Zeke. I think yards per carry and yardage wise, he'll be low, but certainly they're going to get a touchdown. And I don't see Green Bay getting up to a lead where Dak has to throw the ball. Um, this is a game changer here though because Jamal Charles comes back. Now I'm already eliminating Matt Jones from doing anything against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm shocked that his projections are this low at 6 though, man. Wow. Like I know people are like mad and then they're not big on Matt Jones, but whoa, that's pretty low. Like I would expect Jones to be within that 8 to 10 like at worst, but damn. Okay, anyway, Jamal Charles. If he's fully healthy now, report came out today. This is on Wednesday when I'm recording this. He's 110% healthy, which means this guy could go off against the Oakland Raiders, and that could be a difference maker. Speaking of a guy who can go off, I'm giving the tight end edge to Allen in the Jimmy Graham department. I don't know if Eifert is 100% healthy. He's still questionable. So, and then the game against the Atlanta Falcons, who have been very generous to tight ends, just giving up a shit ton of yards in the passing game. Jimmy Graham, the resurgence, I guess, is for real. So lock and load there. The only thing that kind of sucks, though, is the whole, well, Russell Wilson would get the points. That goes to Jimmy Graham. So in a way, that kind of cock blocks Johnny. But then I would suspect when Seattle's at home, you got to factor in there's at least one running back touchdown. History would show a Doug Baldwin touchdown, and then I would assume a Jimmy Graham. So I think it'd be fine either way. Um, Le'Veon Bell taking on Mark Ingram. I think Bell is just amazing, so he beats out Mark Ingram. And then Bryce Butler to Mike Wallace, and Mike Wallace is even dinged up a little bit. So why not Bryce Butler, especially if those corners for Green Bay don't suit up? Um, I actually think that the defensive matchups as well are very even. Very even, like straight down the middle. Like I actually like both of them. They both have turnover potential in this one. So when I'm looking at this, I would not be shocked if this comes down to the wire. But I have to pick a winner, so let me get into it. The matchup to me is too good for Lamar Miller not to do anything. I know he got 2 points last week, but that's against the Vikings. Who doesn't do that? But if Lamar Miller and Zeke Elliott don't perform this week, do not be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, if Allen receives his first victory of the season. I think because of Le'Veon Bell, Jamal Charles, and Jimmy Graham. I think those three alone, I'm very confident in. As far as Johnny's side of the ball, I'm very confident only in these guys. Kelvin Benjamin and Mark Ingram because of the workload that he's going to get. Zeke Elliott, I'm going to throw it in there as like he's going to be okay, but it all comes down to Lamar Miller. Because I think that the quarterbacks don't, like, I feel like Russell Wilson would outperform Mariota by like 13 or something like that, but not enough to change the outcome. This matchup comes down to Lamar Miller. And with that being said, I still think Johnny edges out a close, I'm telling you, like, I think Johnny finds a 5-point victory in this one. Alright, guys. Now headed into the third matchup of the week. Now, one thing I want to talk about this matchup. Somebody lost their first game of the season, okay, and I know partially due to bye week blues. This other guy was in a must-win situation to keep his season alive, and I know we're halfway through the season, but the division is not looking too bright if he would have lost one. And I'm talking about Robert Coffey taking on Mr. Andre Jones. I'm going to get into this matchup. And we're going to start with the Coffee side of things real quickly, and then I'm going to shift over to Andre, then say about the keys to victory. So, the man himself is back, and that is Tom Brady. We knew this was going to happen, especially against the Cleveland Browns of all freaking teams. Come on now. So now Mr. Brady is at home against Cincy. Now, usually with Tom Brady, okay? Now, usually I give him, when he's at home, I give Brady the automatic quarterback edge. However, Drew Brees plays for Andre, and Drew Brees is at home. So that just sucks if you're a Tom Brady owner, like Rob Coffey. But I want to go to Tom Brady first. We have the New England stat going with Tom Brady, Julian Edelman, and Robert Gronkowski. Why not when a team like that puts up a lot of points each and every week? So bottom line, with the stack like that, I think what you really want, obviously you want a lot of points, but I think the average combined, if all three of them hit, is something around 75-ish. I think that seems about right. So that's a big thing to ask for, but that would include Brady 3 to 4 touchdowns and one going to at least Edelman and Gronk. And of course, the LeGarrette Blount touchdowns need to stop, which could happen. Edelman against Cincinnati. If Edelman is healthy again, the Bengals are terrible. Yeah, fine. Another guy who's got a very interesting matchup, and the one I think that is going to take advantage due to Michael Floyd getting demoted. That's John Brown against the Jets. Even if we'd have Revis, Revis doesn't shadow anybody anymore, and with Revis's old age, I wouldn't be surprised if Fitzgerald saw him. John Brown is a nice play. I can't talk about Rob Coffey's team without mentioning Christine Michael. So, I mean, this guy gets the Atlanta Falcons. So, 4 guys in a row that I just mentioned actually look like they could hit their matchup projections. I'm going to make a bold prediction with Christine Michael right here. When the Seattle Seahawks are at home, they are a big threat. Now, I like the passing game a lot more than I do like the running game. But Christine Michael, as long as Rawls is out, he's going to see the bulk of the carries. Give me, I'm going to say 18 carries. Give me around 90 yards at a touch. Something along those lines. So do the math, Curvy. And I'll sprinkle in a catch in there. So you get 17, 16 points. So that's fine. Devonta Freeman, I think, is going to be utilized a lot against the Seattle Seahawks. I don't see Freeman finding much success. I actually like Coleman a little bit more than Seattle. If they utilize Coleman like they did last week, now Atlanta could flat out just change everything. But I'm not huge on Devonta Freeman, but he's impossible to sit with the amount of touches that he gets every single game. I think Freeman is going to have a quiet 10 to 12 point type of week. Gronk. Okay, will he get back on track? Yes. And I heard that Martellus Bennett actually has he's an injury or something, but he should be fine. A guy that I can't feel too optimistic about, Matt Forte. Um, Coffey mentioned this, and everybody kind of knows it. When the Jets look like a game that they're gonna be wetting the bed, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. Bilal Powell, Bilal Powell, Bilal Powell. I just have to toot the Bilal Powell horn because they're gonna be playing catch up. There's no need to rush Forte in, but this is gonna really suck because if Bilal Powell keeps getting all these catches, he's officially established himself as a pass catching guy. But I do think rest of season Forte could be a great trade target slash guy who's gonna have better matchups road ahead. Okay, so I'm assuming you saw the blurb out today about Pete Carroll hyping up Tyler Lockett that he looks so much better and he's so fucking good. Oh, okay. No, I actually do like Tyler Lockett. I mean, this is cliche, but I think you got to start, especially when the Seahawks are at home. Lockett, Baldwin, and Graham, I think, all have very, 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 very solid games. And yes, this might be the week where Lockett goes over the top, catches a touchdown. But I do think that they're going to sprinkle him in. I don't see him seeing the field every single down. What do I mean by that? I think he's probably going to have 3 catches, give me 70 yards and a touchdown, and you'll sprinkle in a punt return in there too. So doing the math, that would roughly around like 15 points. So that's not a bad matchup either. We got to go to the defense. Los Angeles. Yeah, Stafford is prone to turning over the football. That is true. The one thing that I am a little bit worried about, I think they'll get those. Wow. I think they will get their sacks. Now, turnover ratio, I don't see Stafford throwing a pick. Stafford's been very good at home with the ball. I do see him being on a sack-wise. The one thing that is a little bit of a concern is today they ruled out Tromaine Johnson, who's actually one of the most underrated and up-and-coming corners in the league. So it'll be interesting to see if they can stop Marvin Jones over the top, especially since Jones was kind of quiet last week. So that's just something to keep an eye on. So when I go down Coffey's roster, honestly, yeah, the projections don't look that appealing, but I'll speak for some optimism there. Heading over to Andre's side of the ball, there are a lot of juicy, mouth-watering matchups to be said on this one. First and foremost, Breeze at home is probably going to cancel out Brady. Julio Jones against Seattle is the only matchup that's a little bit of a concern for this team. Now, Julio Jones against Richard Sherman, I think Jones could have his way with Sherman, to be quite honest with you, but I don't see... Seattle might bracket that side of the field to limit Jones' big playability. I see Jones getting 8 to 10. Brandon Cooks at home. Now he does not face a shutdown corner. I think he was quiet due to the fact that he had to go against Trufant. He had to go against, give me a minute, Jason Verrett. And they just had a bye. So that's why he's been kind of under the radar in recent weeks. DeMarco Murray, stud. He didn't score last week. Expect a touchdown, maybe even 2 against the Cleveland Browns. 19 points. I haven't checked, but that might be the highest running back projection this week. And a guy whose projections have gone down, man, C.J. Anderson, in the last few weeks has not been the C.J. Anderson that Andre had hoped for. Now, the Devontae Booker thing, I think, is the reason why his projections go down. Don't be crazy. I think the game was out of hand. They wanted to get him on the sideline. This Thursday night, rest assured, he'll at least find the end. So I'll say 70 yards and a touchdown for Anderson. Greg Olsen, really, really good matchup as well. That could have a possibility to cancel out Rob Gronkowski if Gronk hits. Then we have Michael Crabtree and Martellus Bennett. Now, Martellus Bennett is probably the smartest play here to cock-block Tom Brady. But if Bennett can't go, then I'm assuming Eddie Royal gets slotted back into his position, thus making it, I guess, like an 8-point week or something like that. But if one of Brady's touchdowns go to Marty B, man, that only helps out Andre even more. Pitt against Miami is amazing because Tannehill is going to throw at least 2 picks. At least 2. At least 2! Or 2 turnovers. And, back to Crabtree. I don't get this, man. Why does Yahoo constantly do this where they hyped up Crabtree last week to get like 13 points, and then the rest of the season it was like 13, 14. And now he didn't have that great of a game, and Cooper did well, so we're going to drop him back down to 10. I hate that crap, to be honest, but give me 60 yards on a touchdown for Crabtree or something like that. Okay, so now it comes time for me to pick a winner. Now, I love a lot of pieces on Rob's team. Like, to be quite honest with you, I like John Brown. John Brown has explosive game potential. Brady does. Edelman, I don't think is going to be explosive, but I think he'll find the end zone. Christine Michaels, same thing. Devonta Freeman, I don't like. So it's easy because the Falcons pieces you don't really like in this matchup. I don't like Matt Forte. So by process of elimination, this matchup, to be totally honest, because I actually think that both of these guys might outperform their projections as of right now. It all comes down to the pieces I like and don't like, and to be honest, on Andre's side of the ball, the only piece I don't like is Julio Jones, whereas Rob Coffey has to start. I'm not huge on Matt Forte, and there's another guy. Oh, and Devonta Freeman. So it really comes down to that, and if it comes down to that logic, that would mean that Brady would have to have a 2-touchdown game to Rob Gronkowski. Like, 2 touchdowns to him, not just 2 touchdowns for Brady. He'll probably lose if that happens. But, yeah, so that by that simple logic, gotta go with Dre. Alright, this next matchup, ladies and gentlemen. So last week, if I told you a story, we're gonna have a little bit of story time. If I told you a story that one team put up 97 points, the other team put up 146 points, and I told you that the team with 97 points won a game and the team with 146 lost a game, how would you react to that? You'd say that's bullshit, but it did happen. Fuck you! Fuck you! Yeah! I'm the beast! Alright, so we're going to start it off really quickly right now. We're talking about Harsh taking on Max. Now, when I go to this matchup right here, I know this is early, this is a Wednesday format, thanks to the holiday of Yom Kippur. So I had off, so I have a little bit of extra time to do these things to get right in before the Thursday night matchup. But something tells me that Harsh's lineup is not set in stone. Needless to say, he did find a lot of reliable pieces, though. Now, I'm going to go to Harsh's side of the ball first, then we'll go to my side of the ball. Alright, Derek Carr taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so I think when people drafted Derek Carr, you knew the first half of his schedule was a cakewalk. And if I'm not mistaken, he's inside the top 5 for quarterback numbers. I think he's put up 20 at least every single week. Against Kansas, he has not been that good, though. So that's why that is a 21-point projected game. But you know what? With the explosion that Oakland has, and they're at home still, I think Carr has a 24-point week. Okay, so he'll outperform those projections. I'll say 3 touchdowns and a pick for Carr, and yardage-wise, a little under 300. Okay, so right off the bat, Travis Benjamin, I think, is the guy to get totally taken out in the game against the Denver Broncos on Thursday night. I can see a lot of Chris Harris, which will limit anything that Benjamin does. If Benjamin is to catch a ball, his number is going to be like it was week 1 at Kansas. 7 catches for like 30 yards. That was an ugly stat score. Jarvis Landry should get back on track against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think a game where Jarvis Landry was to get 4 points, man, that does not happen with the consistent floor that he gets. David Johnson. Alright, so David Johnson, man, whoa. Dropping 2 touchdowns last week. Now he has the New York Jets. Look, man, the Jets are a total mess right now. I know we have a great run defense, and we limited Bell in the running game, but the receiving department, if Bruce Arians is smart, he'll take a page out of what Pittsburgh did, apply that to David Johnson. And to be honest, man, I see another 20-point game here. James White. So until Deion Lewis returns, if he returns, I don't know what the heck's going on there, but if James White, speaking of Deion Lewis, yeah, someone said that he is actually hitting the weight room now, so that's, I guess, a good sign. But James White projected at 10 points, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to be in that Deion Lewis type of role, so he's a great, great floor to have. I believe he hit 8 to 10, I think, last week. I don't see touchdown potential with James White. but I'll say 10 to 12 just because when New England's at home, man, everybody looks like they're Superman. So Gary Barnidge has the questionable tag, and I know Harsh has another. And he has Julius Thomas, who's also hurt. So this is kind of a weird situation. But Tennessee is a great matchup against the tight end, so he could roll that, or if not, go to Julius Thomas. Now this is a guy. I'm looking at the flex spots. Demaryius Thomas is an obvious start. I think that Harsh is starting to love this pick now because he did not want that pick. And I'm still standing by that he should have been taken over Randall Cobb. I had him ranked ahead of Cobb because I didn't like both of them. Just throwing that out there. But Thomas, yes. So Harsh, you're happy now that you have him instead of Randall Cobb. That's all I'm trying to get out there. Great pick. So DT against San Diego. DT usually has really good games against the San Diego Chargers. I actually do believe he finds the end zone. I also think that Simeon has a pretty solid game in this one. So with that being said, Demaryius Thomas, I'll give him like 15 points. 15 points for DT. Tajay Sharp. Something tells me Tajay Sharp is going to have a divorce with Harsh. And his new favorite wide receiver will be Cameron Meredith. Alright, so Meredith was a guy. Or he has Jeremy Maclin on the bench. Bottom line is we have a very tough decision with the vintage one. He could totally blow you away and change his lineup completely. But there is one thing on this lineup that I definitely can't leave out. Philly! Alright, so Philly's defense going at Washington. Okay. Kirk is prone to turn over the ball a little bit, right? Okay. But Kirk is at home, so he's usually not that bad. But needless to say, Philly's going to get a lot of sacks on Cousins. Expect at least one turnover. So this is a very viable defense to use. Maybe even rest of the season. Maybe. I don't know if I want to go that far, but Max side of the ball. Key to victories. Here we go. Palmer healthy against the New York Jets. He's projected at 24.5, and the reason why it's such a high thing is because the Jets give up big play touchdowns. You saw it last week with Sammy Coates, 70-plus yarders. This is how bad this defense is in the back end of the secondary, guys. And Arizona's got the burners to do it. Oh my God, I'm so happy I got Odell Beckham. Okay, so Odell Beckham now is on Max's team. Something tells me Max was like, bucket list, have Odell off of the fantasy team for once. Yes. Alright, so the one thing I have to say about Odell Beckham, this should be, like, if the Giants don't get it done against the Baltimore Ravens, who are a terrible team, I might add, I just think that the season's done. At that point, I think it's done with Dallas surging, and even Washington having 3 wins now, too. And we can't forget about Philly. But yeah, man, this looks like a good spot. Having that 13 targets, I think the front office is basically like, look, man, McAdoo, you just got this job. Shut the fuck up. Give Odell Beckham the ball, because if he's not happy, he's not going to play for us, and we know that he's the best player on the team. So that's bottom line there. Jordy Nelson against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, interesting enough, Dallas shuts down number 1 wideouts. They're like New England. They don't have like a lockdown, shutdown corner, but they take away these freaking number 1s, man. It's crazy. I mean, you had Beckham, you had Deshaun Jackson. Both were limited. Who else did the Dallas Cowboys play? I'm missing the third game. I know, and San Fran, Torrey Smith didn't do anything, and AJ Green didn't do anything. Somebody help me out here. Who was the third game? Crap. Sorry, I'm not gonna go to the next thing until I figure this out. Who did Dallas play? Oh, Chicago. Alshon Jeffrey didn't do anything either. I gotta follow that trend, man. I'm gonna have to say that Jordy Nelson has an off game. To me, I don't know what they do, but they're doing a good job out of it. Because it's Rad Marinelli. Todd Gurley. Alright, so we're not crying anymore about Todd Gurley. I mean, that was established after he got rid of his other 2 backs, so it looks like Todd Gurley has earned Maxwell's trust. You know, spend the first round pick, that's what he's gonna be. That's my thought process. Okay, so Todd Gurley at 14.53, you know what? And there's one positive about this Los Angeles Rams offense in this game. It's going to be Todd Gurley. I think because of Darius Slay, bitch. I think the passing game with one of those wideouts, whether it be Britt or Quick, they might get taken out. And I don't know if Ziggy Ansah's coming back either, but I think he should have enough holes to find. So I'll say Gurley gets 18 points. Isaiah Crowell against the Tennessee Titans. The very underrated run defense of the Tennessee Titans. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but they are kind of underrated. Crowell, if he gets fed the rock, he'll probably find enough volume to break one. Do I really want to predict a touchdown for Crowell, though? I'm going to say 70 yards in a coin flip. I can't really call that. Jason Witten is Jason Witten. 8 points. I think you can't project any more than what that is. Jordan Matthews. Jordan Matthews at 13.3 against the Washington Redskins. Yeah, I don't expect Norman to be on him because he hasn't even performed like a number one of late. He's been kind of quiet. But if there's one Eagles wideout I do like, it'll probably be Jordan Matthews. So for Jordan Matthews, I'm going to say 8. I'm always going to project this line for him because I feel like that's what it is. 8 for 80, coin flip with a touchdown. I don't know if he finds the end zone. Terrell Pryor Sr. Interesting that a guy who screams out Johnny was traded away. So now he goes to Max's team. Yeah, I think he's just a good floor of like, I guess 11. I'll go with the projections there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, time for me to prick. That doesn't make sense. Pick a winner. So for Max's side of the ball, the guys that I think are going to explode for his team this week, I'm going to say Carson Palmer, Odell Beckham, Todd Gurley. I think those are his 3 MVPs. But I am not big on everybody else on this one. It's for the harsh side of the ball. The MVPs will be Derek Carr, Landry, David Johnson. Give me Demaryius Thomas, okay? So it's 4-3 harsh in that category. Now, if I look at the floors, I'm eliminating Travis Benjamin, and for that case alone, Jordy Nelson and Travis Benjamin will get canceled out because I don't think both of them will have that solid of a game. The tight ends might cancel each other out as well. So then if I'm looking at that logic by process of elimination, it then comes down to that mystery flex, what Harsh is going to do, and then James White. And I think the floor is safer with White than Crowell because I think Crowell is too touchdown dependent. So I give a slight advantage to Harsh there. Okay, so Jordan Matthews, Demaryius Thomas. I think Thomas outperforms Matthews by a little bit. Nothing to change the outcome of the game. But this mystery flex might be the biggest difference here. I think that there's only 3 explosive guys for Maxwell's team. And now it's time for me to pick a winner. Oh, baby! I just think that there's a lot of decent pieces on this roster right now. They're still trying to get their shit figured out completely. But if you look at it, having a 4 wide receiver system with an elite running back and a pass-catching RB as your RB number 2, I think is a very perfect formula. I think Harsh edges out Max in this one. All right. We got 2 more matchups left on the slate. This is a matchup. I love the storyline in this matchup a lot, but I really think that this is going to be a very interesting matchup, man, because in my estimation, this I think is a pretender versus contender type of matchup. There's a lot going on here. Let me explain that. We've got one team was riding such a hot streak, 3-0, looked unstoppable. They were just getting every victory possible, and then they suddenly dropped 2 straight. Let's go to the other side of the ball. First 2 weeks of the season, it looks like this team is like write them off immediately at 0-2, and what do you know? They win 3 straight. So it's kind of an imbalance here. Both teams at 3-2. One's trending down, the other's trending up. I'm talking about the champ taking on the surprise and the hottest team right now, which is I'm like amazed right now. Lewis Chad. All right, so champ taking on Lewis Todd. This is going to be a fun one, man. I'm actually very intrigued by this matchup. Very, really intrigued by this matchup. Alright, so let me break it down right now. Classic format for this matchup. Let's go. Okay, so Super Cam Newton, I guess he's not seeing stars anymore. Even though he's questionable in practice, he's going up to New Orleans and looking on to take on Drew Brees. I think when Cam Newton and Drew Brees get together, it's such magic. And then now you have Aaron Rodgers at home taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I don't see Rodgers putting up a lot of points in this one, and I honestly don't know who would win that game against Green Bay and Dallas. I think because of Dallas's lethargic offense wasting time, I don't see Rodgers having the ball that much to put up those mid-20 type of games. I think Rodgers puts up 20, I'll say 23. But Cam Newton has potential to get one of those 30-point games this week. I think Cam Newton just destroys New Orleans every time he plays them since he was a rookie, man. 29.66. It was at 33. I guess they dropped it down because of his health. But needless to say, advantage Morris. AJ Green, who is, as of Wednesday, is questionable. I'm assuming he's fine, because if he's not fine, man, I'm actually going to bet New England. And I don't bet, but I know that's like a lock. Next, we have Brandon Marshall. He's in the wide receiver number 2. So this combo they have not been in sync all season long. This reminds me of when what the hell was it? Oh, Brian's team last year. You guys remember when Brian had Alshon Jeffrey and Mike Evans? They were never in sync. They could never hit on the same weeks. It was one week and the other. That's what's going on here. The matchup against Brandon Marshall, it would dictate, because Patrick Peterson, but Marshall uses his size. I love Brandon Marshall, and he does get away with a lot of push-offs, and I'll say that flat out. I actually think he's going to have a shit ton of targets now, man. This has now become Kyle Orton to Brandon Marshall, because with no Eric Decker, it's going to be Marshall's going to get like 16 plus targets, and the next guy would probably be a Noonwell with like 8. And then you have AJ Green. I don't like AJ Green, man. I think New England, if they take him out of the game, if AJ Green is to do something, it's in the fourth quarter. I think he gets completely out of this game until the fourth quarter. I'm going to say 2 catches, 30 yards. But when the fourth quarter comes, I think his stat line then becomes 7 for like 90. So he'll have a decent day. Because I think that the Bengals might be in garbage time mode where they're like, let's have AJ Green do something. So I think those 2 wide receivers are good. Now, this is interesting, man, because Lewis's team has 3 wideouts that look like they are solid flex options, and if they can take that next step to be a boom or bust wide receiver too, officially, that's what's going to happen. I'm talking about Sammy Coates and Chris Hogan. Okay, so here's what Sammy Coates is. He's, in my opinion, he's got an athletic talent, but he can only do it when they're against like scrub defenses like Miami. It makes them look really good because all Ben does, these corners suck, run in a straight line, I'll get the ball to you. And if he suits up, I know there's something wrong with a finger or something with him, he's going to get another one over the top. I mean, the opportunity will be there. We knew that he was going to play the Martavis Bryant role because they did not want to trust faith in Darius Hayward-Bay for obvious reasons. I'll say Coates, 3 catches, give me 80 yards and a touch, just because I think Miami, they have Byron Maxwell, so I know Lewis knows all about that. If Coates suits up, fine. Chris Hogan was another guy who was dinged up, and he is their vertical threat in New England. And the one thing I like about Hogan, nobody else does what he does. So I think his potential could be very, very dangerous in this offense. I'm going to say for Chris Hogan, 2 catches, 60 yards and a touch. Because I just feel like Tom Brady's going to spread the wealth, show off to everybody, be like, yo, this is me. I'll say Hogan scores 1. I'll say Edelman scores 1. And I'll say Gronk has potential to get 1, maybe 2 in this one. So Hogan's on the board. Running back situation, it becomes a little bit tricky to decide here, man. It really does. You got Frank Gore against Houston, and Lacey we don't know with the health. I'm very surprised. Did anybody get James Starks, by the way? I might have missed that this morning. So Frank Gore and Eddie Lacy. Lacy, bitch. Look, man. I feel kind of bad for Eddie Lacy. I was down on him in the beginning, but like it's not even his fault at this point. He's just not getting the touchdowns, guys. He's looking really good, man. Like I know he's still kind of big, but yardage total and his yards per carry aren't that bad. Frank Gore on the other side, but I want to speak some positives. Positive. I can't even say that freaking word. Positive vibes. Bottom line, the good vibe trap. Frank Gore going in against the Houston Texans. Texans are pretty bad against the run. Frank Gore, not the most appealing running back to have at this age, but I'll say double digits. I'll say he gets 12 points. Lacy, if he suits up against the Dallas Cowboys, should find his first touchdown of the season. I think Green Bay really needs to stay committed with this guy to be a little bit honest with their play calling. If Lacy suits up, I'm going to say 17 points. Let's go to the Lewis side of the ball here, though. Officially an RB1. Carlos Hyde. Alright. This guy's a beast. Like, I mean, I was not big on him in the second round because I know some drafts were hyping him up there. But to get him in the fourth round was terrific value. Congratulations on that pick. That's probably, that has to be your favorite pick. Against Bills Nation. That's not a daunting matchup whatsoever, and he's matchup proof at this point. And with Colin Kaepernick now, this should help Hyde out a little bit more. 12.9 points is the projected score for Hyde. I'll say he gets 15. Ryan Matthews is touchdown dependent. We all know that. It was interesting to see him in the passing game a little bit last week, but I think that's not something you can bank on week in and week out. But the Washington Redskins are also bad against the run, and if Philly gets into the red zone, something tells me that's another Ryan Matthews touchdown day. I'll say combined 30 for both Hyde and Matthews, and I give a slight edge, meaning that I think this running back matchup is not enough to determine the outcome. I think Lewis's RBs combined put up 5 more points than the combined total of Matt's. Charles Cassie Clay taking on Travis Kelce. Alright, so Travis Kelce against the Oakland Raiders, I actually do like that matchup. Really, really, really like that matchup. Charles Clay is a waiver wire tight end streamer for Kyle Rudolph. Logically, it would say that this is Tyrod Taylor's go-to guy, and they're against a shit matchup against the San Francisco 49ers, but I really can't trust anybody from the Bills passing game. 2 weeks ago, it was Robert Woods. Last week, it was Charles Clay. Dude, I really don't know how to call that one. I'm gonna say draw, because Travis Kelce does not put up 20-point games like the elite tight end that he thought, or what we thought he should be. So I'm gonna say Kelce 14 points, Clay something to 8 to 10. But regardless, I still like Kelce a lot more, only because it's so hard to predict the Bills' passing game. Philip Dorsett, Tevin Coleman. Well, I know Tevin Coleman is like pissing Matt. Oh, it's not even Coleman. It's the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff that probably is pissing off Matt. But this is a guy that's pretty nice. Pretty nice, man. You've got to love that pick. We thought Dorsett would be a lot better than what he's doing right now either, but I don't know, man. I'm not the biggest Dorsett guy. Tavon Austin, I never make a bold prediction about. That's just how I roll. So then at that point, it would have to be Allen Hurts taking on Tevin Coleman, and I have not seen enough from Hurns all year, so I'm going to have to give Tevin Coleman the edge, even in a tough matchup. Wow. Oh my. Whoa. Am I seeing things? Justin Tucker's got 13.99 projection for a kicker. Man, this dude is money, man. Nice. That's kind of cool to see. I don't think we ever had a kicker. Maybe Gostkowski in some matchups, but that's pretty cool. Seattle's defense against Atlanta should be fine, but Matt Ryan to me is just smart this year. He's not turning over the ball. But the streamer defense of the week, which was my number one claim, was Tennessee taking on Cleveland. Tennessee always has like flashes where their defense looks kind of underrated, because against bad teams, of course. Now let's go to the pick'em. I do think Cam Newton totally has a really good game and kind of is better than Aaron Rodgers in this one. AJ Green and Brandon Marshall, I think due to garbage time would be alright. Marshall, I think, will get his. but I like Coates and Hogan as well, so that's kind of almost a draw there. As far as the running back's concerned, I said I'd give Lewis the edge on that one. Slight edge. There's everything to me is like very close with this matchup to call. It's a slight edge here. This is one of the most even matchups this week. And then I'm going down the list. I'm looking at Dorsett and Austin. I can never call a Tavon Austin game. It's just impossible to do. Dorsett. I want to be. Wow, this is really hard to call. All right. So here's how I'm going to call the winner now. It has to rely on this factor alone, and it's kind of a cop out. But man, like I honestly think this is like I'm splitting hairs with this one, man. All right. So if Lacy Bitch suits up, I give Matthew Morris the victor. But my gut feeling is if Lacy was not to suit up, and I don't know if James Starks is still a free agent or whatnot. Who cares? I don't even know if Matt would pick him up. He might actually. He might. But something that then tells me that Coleman would go to the RB2 and then Ginn would go to his flex. And I'm done trying to predict Ted Ginn at this point. So if Lacy is out, I give the victory edge to Lewis. But if Lacy suits up, I think the champ gets back on track to go 4-2. Alright, so we have one more matchup to go. The only reason why I put this matchup as the last one was because both teams have the same record. And due to the calculations, both are ranking inside the top 5, I believe. Rank inside the top 5 for points. That is my team taking on Brian's team. Alright, so bottom line when I'm going down, looking at the matchups, this is, once again, this is recorded on Wednesday, so we won't know with the injury situation, and there is a very big questionable call on my side of the ball, so let's just dig right into it. Ben Roethlisberger taking on Blake Bortles. Both of these guys have dramatic home road splits. Now, the Dolphins are so bad, so I understand why Ben is right now is projected almost at 27 points, which is a lot. I don't know if I would give him that high of a projection. I'd say like because Ben on the road doesn't really put up those explosive games. But I still think Ben hits mid-20s. Like whenever I see that high projected game, man, it's like there's a lot that needs to happen for that. Blake Bortles also is not the best road quarterback either. And against the Bears, I think he gets 2 touchdowns in this one, but you got to think that there's going to be a pick, maybe even 2, with the way he's kind of careless with the ball. The guys I like, I'm going to go to just the Bryant side first, and then I'll take back on my side. Emmanuel Sanders, in case anybody didn't know, something came out that they said that Drew Font was actually shadowing him the whole game. So, what do teams think about Denver's number 1? It's Sanders, not Demaryius Thomas. Against a matchup in San Diego, I think the only cornerback that he has to worry about is Casey Hayward, who's having a tremendous season, but I think Hayward's numbers will kind of take a dip now that Verrett is not there. So Sanders should be good to go this week, definitely. Allen Robinson, this is a guy who's been bailed out a lot. There's not a lot of explosion, but he's getting a lot of touchdowns. And the one thing I've noticed about the Chicago Bears is that they're not really... Crap, I'm trying to think of the word. They're not the best corners at all by any means. They've actually been okay, but I think Hilton was their first real test against like good wide receivers, because Des Bryant was able to score against them, but they limited him. Hilton kind of exploded, so it's up for Blake Bortles to like be creative and the coaching staff how they're going to use Robinson, I think. So I think he also has a stellar day. Terrence West. Thing we know about Terrence West now is that he is the starter. And now they have a coaching change in Marty Morningweg, which means there's probably going to be a lot more running plays, which could only help Terrence West. The only thing I don't like is that the Baltimore Ravens might have one of the most boring offenses to watch. They're just they're not very good. And the Giants actually are pretty solid against the run. So, but I think the volume will be there for West. So that 10 projected, there's nothing. I don't think it's too low, and I don't think it's too high. Theo. All right, so Theo just popped up on the injury report, and now that they signed Justin Forsett, originally I thought that the Forsett signing had to do with because Dwayne Washington is out, but this is a big blow if Riddick would not be able to go for Brian. Now, against the Rams, I don't see him having much running room with Aaron Donald, especially because he doesn't like to run into the inside, which means that if Riddick is there, they're going to commit to the outside runs. Rushing department, you know how I feel, not that good. And after coming off of a big week, it's interesting to see if they still give him the bulk of the catches, because this guy can't do it alone, or else you're going to see the body break down, because it's just shame, because this guy was supposed to be only on third downs and being that specialist, spacey type of back. Guess who else is on the injury report? This should be no shocker to anybody, but Jordan Reed with another concussion, and when Jordan Reed has concussions, this thing lasts for like 7 years. I don't know if he even gets cleared, because if they're checking him just now, I think the rule is that it has to wait a week in advance. So I don't know if we'll see Mr. Reed this week, but if we do, the matchup against Philly is not even that great. But it is Jordan Reed, so you have to have the elite level talent, but right now the thing that we have to focus on is his health. Will Fuller is a guy, again, he's on the injury report. That doesn't look like it should be too serious, though. So Fuller popped up on the injury report, but this matchup is so good. Like, I actually like the Will Fuller matchup. If there's one guy that I think their projections should be bumped up on Brian's team, it'll certainly be Will Fuller. And I'll say like that 12 point, because I think without a touchdown, that floor is like at 12, not 10. That's the way I view these projections, by the way. The one guy I do love, and Yahoo certainly loves him a lot too, giving him a 5-star matchup this week, is Delaney Walker. So if Reed is unable to go, the tight end position is totally fine. I don't know what's going to happen with the flex, though. And another thing, I think it's disrespectful to have, no, this is just me personally, Minnesota, Denver, and who's the other? Oh, and Seattle. These defenses should not be projected in single point digits, but yet they go look at a crap defense that plays a crap offense and gives them double-digit points. I just don't like that. Like, I think that's kind of disrespectful for these defenses. One thing I'll say about Denver, though, is their teams are starting to run a lot more on them, and their rushing yards they're giving up is 115, which is about average, but you got to imagine that Phillip Rivers is going to be behind. Phillip Rivers is careful with the ball, don't get me wrong. The thing I'm worried about is this has a Talib pick written all over it, because these wide receivers don't know what routes they're running. And if Talib jumps a route, man, like I could see something like that happening. So that's something I would bump up. My side of the ball, I just wanted the Ben AB combo. I think would be fine. The road against Miami. Miami's just they've been torched against wide receivers all season, man. Interesting thing about T.Y. Hilton. Now, if you look at the matchups when it's red, green, and yellow, he goes against the best quote-unquote defense against wide receivers. I'm not buying it, and here's the reason why. Look at the teams Houston has had to play. Alshon Jeffrey was the only one to do good with Jay Cutler. He got over 100 yards. Houston in week 2. Give me a minute. Who did they play? God, I hate thinking about these things. Okay. Regardless, I can't think of it right now. It'll definitely come back to me without a doubt. But that wide receiver too, who they play, or that wide receiver that they played that week, wasn't on a good passing team. They played the Tennessee Titans, not a good passing team. They played the Minnesota Vikings. Thielen, torched them up, and then they played Jacoby Brissett. Okay, so whoever that week 2 team is, that would definitely, I don't know if I would say change my opinion a little bit. Dang, who is it? It's gotta be an NFC team. NFC teams. Screw it, I don't even know. But bottom line is they haven't played any great receivers and great quarterbacks. That's why they're ranked a number 1. So I'm not buying it. Hilton still gets, he's the only wide receiver in the league to have double-digit targets every week. I think he's hit like exactly 11, and he might have had 12 one week. So I think he'll be fine. And if Luck is getting pressured a lot, he's going to move to slot, and he'll have like a serviceable PPR day. Okay, so this right here is officially the hardest matchup that Melvin Gordon has had all season. Now, I usually don't talk about my running backs. I just don't. So the only thing that Melvin Gordon really has going for him in this one is the volume. So that's why I think that projection is still a little bit there. I'd personally lower it just a little bit, but I'm not huge. Jordan Howard has been a big boost to the Chicago Bears run game for obvious reasons. And against the Jacksonville Jaguars, you wouldn't say it's a daunting matchup, but I don't want to go too in depth with these running backs. This is the only thing that I don't like with my team right now is for this week only, Hunter Henry against the Denver Broncos. But I feel like if San Diego is to find success in the passing game, I feel like it would be with Henry. That's just a bold call. And flex values, Marvin Jones and Dougie Fresh. So Doug Baldwin has, in his last 5 home games, 8 touchdowns. He's been a home game king. So if we're following that trend, I guess we can rely on that. I don't necessarily know if True Font would be on Doug Baldwin, though. And here's what I mean by that. You're against Russell Wilson, and a lot of teams don't like to play man against Russell unless they have a spy. And if that's the case, then a safety would drop down. And Marvin Jones against Los Angeles. So the biggest boost here for Marvin Jones would be that Tromaine Johnson has been officially ruled out. So that's a big blow to the Los Angeles Rams. Jones was a little bit limited last week. He did get a touchdown, but I do think that both, if they play their part, they should be fine. To be quite honest with you, I'm not even huge on Detroit. I might swap them for another defense that I'm looking at. It really relies on the pass rush. The only reason why I have them is because of Case Keenum, and I think anybody would kind of do that if they could stream against Case Keenum. I mean, the Buccaneers defense got 10 points against them. Okay, so basically what it comes down to in this one is that, well, for Brian, you know, Blake Bortles has to look like 2015 Blake Bortles, which would mean, okay, 2 picks, but you got to back it up with like 3 touchdowns and like a shit ton of yards. That needs to happen, and obviously Robinson would need to be on the receiving end of those. And every time I go in depth with Brian's team, man, the flexes need to like step up for him because I think when he's listening to this, he knows it too. He knows that for now, because I don't see this being a permanent fixture in this team. Like, the running backs are low floor guys, meaning that they're always going to hit like that 8 to 10. I do think, though, if Theo Riddick is fully healthy, I think we can finally put him in a boom or bust RB2. I think it's worth that at least, and not just calling him a flex option at that point. So that is the one thing. But the health with Riddick, Reed, and Fuller, I would say at least 2 of these guys suit up, though, because I think some of these injuries they just randomly popped up. And usually when you go into practices, Wednesday is usually a day you don't have to look to it. Friday is definitely the definition day if they're out there or not. So, and obviously with when we go on my side of the ball, it would be interesting to see if Melvin Gordon continues his touchdown reign, I guess. He didn't get a rushing one, but he did get a receiving one. And then everybody else would have to play their part. So once again, guys, thank you guys for checking in so much. Yet again, you got an early present. Hope you guys enjoy it. Enjoy your Yom Kippur. Peace.